guys, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm very excited for because I'm going to be going through all of the books I've bought recently. That's right, I'm back with another rather large unboxing book haul. But before we jump into the books themselves, first a word from this video's sponsor, which is Curology. I'm so excited to be partnering up with my baes over at Curology because their products are truly things that I use every single day in my own skincare routine. I truly have loved the results I have seen on my own skin. But if you're not familiar, Curology is a leader in made-for-you skincare, and through their site you're able to shop not only a huge array of standard skincare products like moisturizer, sunscreen, cleanser and makeup remover, lip balm, with everything being sent directly to your door, which is truly so convenient, but you're also able to work directly with a licensed dermatology provider, meaning you can get access to skincare items with active ingredients that target things like acne or fine lines and wrinkles with their retinoid-based product. I have been using my retinoid-based product every single night from Curology, and I have been loving it. And I also love that with the seasons changing, I'm always able to reconnect with my licensed dermatology provider and make any updates to my prescription as needed for my own skin, which is just so handy. Obviously, I've also continuously shouted out how much I love their moisturizer, which I always pair with my retinoid product. But given that summer is upon us and the sun is out much longer than before, I also want to give a quick PSA to wear your sunscreen. It's really important to protect yourself, your skin, from the harmful rays of the sun. So pick up a sunscreen if you haven't already. I really love the Curology one. It layers so nicely on top of my skincare and under my makeup. Of course, I do have a special offer with Curology, which I'll have linked down below if you guys want to learn more, but I truly love working with them. I love their products. I use them, again, every single day, and everything's sent to my door, so I never have to leave my house, which is preferred. But thank you again so much to Curology for sponsoring this video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the books because we are officially in the summer months. I always feel like the summer and the fall are some of the biggest times for book releases for the year, and there's just so many books coming out in the next few months that I'm excited about. So yes, I bought a lot of books. So let's just go ahead and talk about them. The first book I have to show off is truly just like one of the prettiest books I've seen in a minute. It's also been getting some glowing praise and reviews, and I have also been in a bit of a romantasy kick, so I'm curious to check it out for myself. The book I'm talking about is Five Broken Blades by May Corland, and look at the cover, but look at these sprayed edges. I mean, this is incredible. This is like a work of art. We also got these end papers, and even look at this hardcover book. Not gonna lie, I was curious about this book before, but when I saw how pretty it was, I was like, I need to add that book to my shelf immediately. And the tagline of the book is fantastic. It says, "It's the season for treason." And I love the synopsis of the story. And basically the setup of this book is that the king of Yusan must die. This god king has been ruling over the land for a very long time, and under his rule, the nobles have flourished, while the poor and innocent are treated terribly. They're imprisoned for crimes they did not commit. There's little work to go around. Obviously, there is time for a change. So of course, 5 killers from 5 different areas of the killing field are all hired to take out this king. We have a hitman looking for atonement. We have a lovely assassin who seeks freedom. Everyone has their own reasons for getting into the line of work that they have, and they now have to form an unlikely alliance with each other to again take down this king. 5 assassins have been hired, but who's actually going to succeed in the work itself? Again, the setup of this really calls out to me. I love this sort of competition between assassins. I feel like there could be some great humor amongst what I also feel like could be a much darker read. Again, I've heard really good things about this before, but I like that this is almost like a competition-esque novel, but instead of it being like an arena story, it's kind of more of a backroom dealing competition between kind of dangerous and mysterious people. Definitely has piqued my interest, and I hope to read this one soon. The next book I grabbed was a pre-order and a sequel to one of my favorite books I read last year. That is The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence. This, of course, is a sequel to The Book That Wouldn't Burn. That was my first Mark Lawrence read and pickup when I grabbed that, and honestly, I was really impressed not only with Mark Lawrence's writing style, but just the overall ambiance of that world and story. But if you're not familiar, this series is basically set in a world where there's this massive magical library library that's sort of never ending. And in book one, we're introduced to two characters whose fates and worlds become intertwined in a very unexpected fashion. First is a girl who was raised in the dust, which is sort of the outskirts of this society. In the dust, it's incredibly dangerous, and at the beginning of the book, her family and community is attacked by monsters, forcing her to flee to the big city. There she takes on work working within this library that's again magical and never ending. We're also introduced to a boy who has been sort of trapped in a room of a library with his siblings for as long as he can remember. They all also have like special abilities, and a larger mystery becomes very central to the book itself. It's windy, it's strange, the interplay between the two perspectives and characters is great, and I kind of had this feeling of like not completely grasping what was going on until you got to the end, so there's a very satisfying reveal as well. I really love just like the entire setup and ambiance of this world, and the end of book one was really explosive, so I'm curious to see how Mark Lawrence is going to continue this story into book two, especially given what we know now. Again, I was really impressed with Mark Lawrence's writing style, and I just love a book about books set surrounded by books, especially when there's a dash of magic. So just like the vibe of this was great. It's also a lot shorter than the first one, so I'm curious about it. You know, I really liked book one. I'm hoping I'll also love book two. I picked up another romantasy book that I feel like has been garnering quite a bit of buzz, and that is Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen. This is a Norse mythology inspired romantasy book. I personally always have a soft spot for any fantasy book that takes influence from mythology, and Norse mythology in particular is always one that calls out to me. I'm a big Vikings fan, what can I say? But in this story, we follow our main character Freya, and Freya dreams of becoming a warrior. She also dreams of burying an axe in her husband's back. She spends her days, instead of fighting and training to protect those she loves, gutting fish and just trying to avoid her husband altogether. Freya is also holding a huge secret, and that is that she actually has a drop of the goddess's blood within her, meaning she's actually a powerful shield maiden having abilities to sort of thwart any attack against her. However, though, her husband has dreams for larger power and trying to gain the attraction of a powerful like earl in the area. He basically gives his wife the opportunity to fight to the death in like this competition. She does well, gaining the eye of this earl, and now she's protected by the earl's son. And now a lot of complicated things begin to happen at once. There's a power struggle for power within the region. There's also like monsters and things that our main character now has to fight against to defend herself. And there's also an unexpected attraction between her and the evil earl's son. So all of that is beginning to play out. I'm curious about this one. Again, I'm kind of trying to find like my personal favorite romantasy, so I've been trying to pick up and read more so I can recommend my personal favorite ones to you guys. So we'll see how this one goes. I love the cover, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm hoping this is full of like combat and blood and action and drama and of course romance. Alrighty, here we have our first package to open. Oh yes, okay, this is an exciting one. So the first book in here is the much anticipated, very hyped, funny story by Emily Henry. I've personally read one Emily Henry book before, and I honestly really liked it. I obviously don't read a lot of contemporary romance, but in general, I find Emily Henry's writing style to be incredibly engaging. I like her characters. I like that her stories are also very dynamic and kind of have a lot of different emotional elements, from friendships to like interpersonal drama, as well as drama and love between two central characters. And she also tends to have strong ensembles. But again, there's now a lot of books that she has released, including this new one that I have not read yet. So I'm actually hoping to do a bit of an Emily Henry marathon read for an upcoming vlog, especially because, in my opinion, these types of books play so well when it begins to be hot outside, and it's getting hot in Texas very, very quickly, unfortunately. And I'll be honest with you guys, reading the synopsis of this book, my mouth just like dropped open. Like, this is a very interesting and juicy setup. In this story, we're introduced to our first main character, Daphne, I think that's how you say her name, and her fiance always started the story of how they met with It's a Funny Story. They met on a blustery day, they fell in love at the drop of a hat, and they're so excited to start their life together as a married couple moving back to her fiance's small hometown in Michigan, until of course everything sort of is turned upside down when her fiance realizes that he's actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra. Now our main character is kind of stuck in this small town that's not hers, but she does have a dream job here as being a child librarian, so she's not really looking to leave. She also has a new and unexpected roommate who is Petra's ex-boyfriend, who's scruffy and grumpy, and I think they begin to form an unlikely friendship and possibly romance as well. Again, this sort of setup of two exes living together of their like previous partners who also live in town just feels like a setup for something rather dramatic and emotional. And I also love the concept of like second chances as a part of romance stories. Again, I really enjoy Emily Henry's writing. I'm looking to read quite a few of her books soon, so obviously I had to get her newest release. This book I have to show off is another one I'm super excited to pick up soon. It was always one of my more anticipated releases for this year, but now it's been getting like a lot of buzz and a lot of hype, which makes me even more excited to read it. That is The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley. I first just have to give a moment of appreciation for this cover. Typography, the overall vibe of this just like absolutely speaks to me. I also believe this sort of has a fun retrofuturism, like corporate vibe to the story too, which in general is like a setting and style I just love. It just works for me. I feel like it's gonna be like very British office humor, and I'm looking forward to that, you know what I mean? But this is said to be an ingenious, imagined, hilarious romp through time and space and the human heart that announces an exhilarating new voice in contemporary fiction. And this book is set in the near future, and our main character is offered a position and a salary of her dreams, basically taking on the role of heading a new government ministry that is gathering expats through space and time across like the timeline of existence to see if time travel is not only possible for the human body, but also possible for like the fabric of the space-time continuum. So from here we follow our main character who's now roommates with like a guy from 1845, known to be lost in the Arctic expedition, but now finds himself living with this like woman who he doesn't quite understand, but I believe they begin to form like a closer relationship. This book actually might like center romance, I'm not entirely sure. I love that this kind of has, again, that sort of corporate vibe while combining elements and humor of like time travel and space and having people from so many different times and places connecting and communicating with one another. I just feel like this book is going to be like funny and heartwarming and a quick read. And again, I've heard such good things about it so far, so I'm just very excited about it. Alrighty, next package. Oh, yes. So the next book I have to show off is The Demon Awakens by R.A. Salvatore. This is part of the Demon Wars saga. This series came out actually in the 90s, but it recently got like a revamped cover design and re-release, and I really like the style of these paperbacks. They're my favorite kind of fantasy paperback, very floppy, very easy to read. And while my eye was initially drawn to this series because of these newly released covers, I've also had a goal of checking out series that have been released now for a little while, alongside some of the newer fantasy releases I also like to read. The setup of the story is also incredibly classic. In general, I always find a little bit comforting when I'm picking up fantasy books and stories, but this book is set in a fantasy world where a giant beast has awoken evil across the land, and now goblins and giants and other monsters have basically ravaged the frontier, making living and existing very, very dangerous. And in this book, we're introduced to two orphans who are kind of a product of this new dangerous land. The first is, and excuse my pronunciation, Jill Sophoni and her friend Elbrian, who teeter unaware between utter despair and destiny. Meanwhile, powerful gemstones have fallen on the shore of black sand beaches on a faraway isle, harvested by monks who guard the secrets of magic, and within these stones themselves contain incredible power for good or for evil. So what is going to happen from there? There's only one way to find out. This is the first book to what I want to say is a rather long series. I think this could be about 8 books. The new covers, I have to give a shout out. I'm a big fan of. So I did grab book 1, and I'm excited to check out this series for myself. Next up, I was actually sent some new middle grade fantasy reads from some publishers, and I'm so excited to show them off because I love middle grade fantasy so much. First is actually a graphic novel. That is Lightfall, The Girl and the Galdrian. I love the art style of this graphic novel. It is so cute and colorful and magical and full of adventure. It just looks so unbelievably charming. Deep within a magical forest, we're introduced to our main character, Cad, and she lives and works with an individual called the Pig Wizard, and they basically make various medicines and tinctures to sell and help people of the land. One day, though, everything changes when Cad meets a member of the Galdrians, which is thought to be a lost group of individuals, and Cad wants to help this person kind of find his lost people, and she thinks that the person best suited to help them is the Pig Wizard himself. But when she arrives home, he's missing. And now Bia and Cad have to set out into the wide world to hopefully save the Pig Wizard, find Bia's people, and form an unlikely friendship. Again, this sounds just adorable and delightful, full of emotion and adventure and friendship. What's there not to love? Next up, I have Myth of Monsters, Medusa. In this story, we're introduced to our main character, Ava, and one day in class, after a boy was speaking over her again, she gets so angry that she freezes him in time. From there, her parents quickly whisk her away to a boarding school in Venice because Ava finds out that she's actually a descendant of the monster Medusa. And this boarding school is actually a place for all descendants of these mythological monsters to go to school and also learn to control their emotions to become well-adjusted members of society. But as Ava begins to attend this school, she realizes that it's actually containing a dark secret, and it's up to her to discover what is going on and possibly save the day. I obviously love Greek lore and mythology, and I also really like that this story is sort of a spin on the approach of retelling those stories, centering instead the descendants of the monsters. I think that is super cool, and I'm very interested to see and read more about this. And the last middle grade fantasy book I have to show off is Adaia, Cabara, and the Circle of Shamans, and this book just sounds unbelievably magical. And in this book, we're introduced to our main character, Adaia, and she believes that she is cursed, told so by all members of her family. She feels like she has magic she cannot control, and her village is kind of wary of her, especially when she suddenly manifests even more powerful powers and abilities, which results in her causing an earthquake within her village. So when Adaia is offered a kitchen apprenticeship within the Academy of Shamans, she decides to take him up on the offer, leaving suddenly with just her pouch of a couple of her possessions, her cat Bubbles, and a hope that someone there can help her figure out what's wrong with her. However, though, as she's beginning to settle in, she realizes that someone else besides her is actually possessed, and that is the emperor of her land, and he's about to visit the academy itself. So it's kind of up to her to figure out what in the world is going on. I believe this book is going to be a lot about identity, owning one's power and strength. I obviously love a magical school setting, and this just sounds so good. And it's also blurred by B.B. Alston, who wrote Amari and the Night Brothers, which is one of my favorite middle grade fantasy books. So good. Alrighty, we are in the home stretch here. Just a few more books to show off. Oh, one is much bigger than I was expecting. This is exciting. Okay, this is actually so exciting. So the first book I have to show off is Fugitive Telemetry, which is book 5 to the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. And this is a series of short stories centering our main character, Murderbot, but I bought what I thought was book 6 of this series, but it's actually a standalone novel. Honestly, this is like such a happy surprise because I love this series, Murderbot as our main character, so much, and Martha Wells' writing has just truly entranced me. So I have book 5 of the short stories and of course the first standalone novel, which I could not be more excited about. But if you're not familiar, the Murderbot Diary centers our main character, Murderbot, and it's probably one of my favorite characters of all time. The Murderbot Diaries is such an interesting portrayal of like sci-fi action and adventure, and also such a human and contemplative approach of centering a main character, trying to discover who it wants to be, and sort of that journey that we get to follow is just a beautiful thing to read. It's relatable, it's funny. You will truly just fall in love with Murderbot as the main character. I adore Murderbot so much. But this is basically set in a near future world where robots and humans exist side by side, but pretty much every robot is controlled by large corporations, are very much regulated by various governments. They exist as kind of something to be used and owned, not really as individual things that think and feel for themselves, especially because a lot of their coding prevents them from doing so. Our main character Murderbot, though, has hacked its own like mainframe, if you will, and it has begun thinking and feeling solely for Murderbot and also making decisions for Murderbot. Basically, all it wants to do is like lay in bed and watch its favorite shows. It's depressed, it's lost, it doesn't know what it wants to do or who it wants to be within this world and how it wants to operate. We begin to see Murderbot as they not only begin to discover like secrets about its past, make unlikely friendships get involved and various conflicts along the way. It's just so heartwarming and entertaining. I have flown through all 4 books that have been released so far, so I wanted to get book 5, and I'm so excited to get a standalone novel featuring Murderbot now. I love this series. It's just so good. And the last book I have to show off is a little bit of a pivot. It's actually my IRL book club pick for the month, so I'm excited to read a little bit out of my own genre choice. And the book is Before We Were Innocent by Ella Berman. This is like a summer thriller, friendship-like novel that I feel like is going to be very much a page turner, and I also feel like a lot of other people are going to be reading it this summer, so I'm excited to be a part of the conversation, you know what I mean? The setup of this book is 10 years ago, after a sun-soaked summer in Greece, 2 friends, Bess and Joni, were cleared of having any involvement in the tragic passing of their 3rd friend Evangeline's death in Greece. However, though, that didn't stop the media from tearing these 2 girls apart and sort of centering them within this tragedy. Joni, ever the opportunist, sort of capitalized on the notoriety surrounding her friend's death, becoming a motivational speaker. Bess, on the other hand, worked to make her life as small and controlled as possible, vowing to never lose anyone close to her ever again, except now when Joni ends up on Bess's doorstep saying she needs help and that she needs an alibi. And Bess has no choice but to say yes because she owes her. I believe this sort of present-day mystery and conflict begins to wrap up with what happened 10 years prior. Again, a story of betrayal and friendship and deception. I feel like this will be a lot of fun, and again, a page turner and my IRL book club pick. Alrighty guys, those are all the books I picked up recently. Again, big shout out to this video's sponsor, which is Curology. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!